Why do some people seem to thrive in everything they do, while others struggle to find purpose and direction? The answer lies in one of the most transformative lessons Jesus taught, the parable of the talents. But wait, this story isn't just about money or skills. It's a practical and divine guide to building wealth, purpose, and lasting impact. Most people believe their gifts aren't enough for something great, a common mistake, but a fatal one. The parable reveals a secret. God not only gives us talents, but also calls us to multiply them. Ignoring this is missing the opportunity to fully live out the purpose He has planned for you. If you're tired of trying and failing, of living below what you know you're capable of, know that God's plan for your life will transform what you have into something extraordinary. The core message of the parable of the talents, God's call to multiply. The parable of the talents is one of the most intriguing lessons Jesus taught, emphasizing the importance of action and multiplication. In the story, the master entrusts varying amounts to his servants, measuring their success by how much they multiply the resources. This isn't just about money. It's about everything God places in our hands: time, gifts, opportunities, and skills. The parable teaches us that God expects us to be diligent and creative with the blessings He gives. After all, multiplication reflects our obedience and faith. When we examine the two servants who multiplied what they were given, we see that they acted boldly and with confidence. They didn't let the fear of failure hold them back, but trusted that their efforts would be rewarded. And the result? Both were praised and promoted by the Master. This mirrors the Christian life. God calls us to actively use our gifts and promises a reward in return. Remember, faith without works is dead. James 2:26. On the other hand, the third servant represents paralyzing fear and a lack of faith. He buried the talent, justifying his inaction with a distorted view of the master, calling him harsh and unjust. How often do we allow fear of failure or feelings of inadequacy to lead us to bury our own talents? This parable invites us to challenge these limiting beliefs and to act with courage, knowing that God is both just and generous. This core message prepares us to reflect on how to identify the unique talents God has entrusted to us. After all, there can be no multiplication without first discovering what's already in our hands. That's exactly what we'll explore in the next section. Discovering your talents. How to identify and maximize your God-given gifts. One of the most common challenges is identifying the talents God has entrusted to us. Many people go through life without realizing they are equipped with specific gifts meant to impact the world. The Bible reminds us that there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. 1 Corinthians 12:4. Discovering your talents begins with a journey of self-reflection and sincere prayer, asking God for clarity. Take a moment to ask yourself, what do I do with passion? What abilities do I have that can benefit others? Identifying talents also requires action. Try new activities, get involved in church ministries, or talk to people who can point out your strengths. Often God reveals our gifts through others who see what we may not recognize in ourselves. For example, you might have a gift for teaching that could be used to lead Bible studies or mentor younger believers. The key is being open to learning and growing. Once you've identified your talents, it's essential to maximize them. The servant in the parable who multiplied 5 talents didn't just work. He worked strategically and with dedication. Practically speaking, this might mean studying, seeking training, or finding mentors to help develop your abilities. If you have a talent for financial management, for instance, you could enhance it by learning about investments or budgeting. Discovering and maximizing your talents is the first step in fulfilling God's purpose for your life. But like the servants in the parable, your faithfulness in using these gifts will be tested, and that's precisely what we'll explore next. Responsibility and stewardship, the role of faithfulness in building wealth. The parable of the talents is a powerful reminder that everything we have belongs to God, and we are merely stewards of His resources. To whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. The master in the parable didn't measure his servants by what they received, but by what they did with what was entrusted to them. This reflects a central principle of stewardship: faithfulness. Being faithful means managing resources wisely, whether they are financial, emotional, or spiritual. Responsibility also extends to how we use what we have daily. For the servant who received 5 talents, this meant applying diligence, organization, and long-term vision. Practically, being responsible could include creating a budget, avoiding unnecessary debt, and investing wisely. For instance, you might begin by setting aside a portion of your earnings for savings while also giving generously to causes that honor God and help others. Moreover, stewardship is not limited to money. It's also about how we manage our time and energy. Many talents are wasted because of a lack of discipline. Imagine a musical gift or leadership ability left undeveloped due to procrastination or distraction. Responsibility includes recognizing that each day is an opportunity to grow and multiply what we've been given. This sense of responsibility and faithfulness sets the stage for something even greater: multiplication. God doesn't call us just to preserve what He gives, but to increase it. In the next section, we'll explore how to apply this principle practically to achieve both material and spiritual growth. Multiplication in practice. Biblical strategies for material and spiritual growth. Multiplying what God entrusts to us is an act of obedience and faith. But how does it translate into practical actions? The Bible offers solid principles to guide us. In Proverbs 21:5, we learn, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." This verse teaches us that multiplication requires strategic planning. Whether in finances or spiritual gifts, dedicating time to set goals and create a plan is essential. To grow materially, one practical approach is diversifying your income sources, just as the servants in the parable found ways to multiply their talents. For example, consider investing in something that aligns with your interests and skills. If you have a talent for teaching, creating online courses could be a great way to generate income while blessing others. Always seek God's guidance in prayer before making financial decisions. On the spiritual side, multiplication happens when we use our talents to serve and build God's kingdom. Jesus multiplied loaves and fish because someone offered the little they had. Similarly, when we share what we've received, be it knowledge, time, or resources, we enable God to work miracles of multiplication. This could mean mentoring someone in faith, leading a prayer group, or contributing to mission projects. Finally, practical multiplication must be accompanied by humility and gratitude. Acknowledge that every success is by God's grace and stay vigilant against pride. However, not everyone embraces this responsibility. In the next section, we'll delve into the fate of the unfaithful servant and the consequences of inaction. The judgment of the unfaithful servant, the consequences of inaction and neglect. The parable of the talents presents a stark contrast. While two servants were praised, the third faced severe condemnation. This servant, who chose to bury his talent rather than use it, not only missed the opportunity to please his master, but also suffered grave consequences. The master's words, "You wicked, lazy servant," Matthew 25:26, emphasize that inaction is as condemnable as wastefulness. God does not tolerate neglect because He calls us to act with faith and diligence. The unfaithful servant's failure began with a distorted view of his master. He perceived him as harsh and unjust, which paralyzed him with fear. How often do similar fears prevent us from stepping out in faith? The Bible reassures us, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." 2 Timothy 1:7. Trusting God is the first step toward overcoming the mindset that leads to inaction. The consequences of inaction extend beyond the individual and affect those around them. Consider the impact of a wasted talent, an idea that could have transformed lives, or a ministry that was never started. Neglecting the gifts God has entrusted to us deprives the world of the blessings He intended to share through us. The loss is not just personal, but collective. This judgment serves as a sobering reminder. Our talents are meant to be used and multiplied. God has given us the ability and the time, and He expects results in return. But there is an even greater purpose in this calling: to turn our talents into a lasting legacy, as we'll explore next. From talent to legacy, using your blessings to impact generations. True wealth goes beyond immediate multiplication. It's about creating a lasting impact that transcends generations. In the parable of the talents, the faithful servants not only increased their master's resources, but also set a timeless example of obedience and diligence. Similarly, God calls us to transform our talents into a legacy that glorifies Him and benefits future generations. Proverbs 13:22 reminds us, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." Building a legacy begins with the intention to bless others with what we've received. This could involve teaching financial principles to your children, investing in community projects, or initiating efforts that reflect kingdom values. For instance, imagine using your prosperity to fund scholarships for church youth or support missions spreading the gospel to unreached areas. These actions create ripples that can touch lives you may never meet. Creating a legacy also requires consistency. The faithful servant in the parable didn't achieve results overnight. His progress was marked by diligence and commitment. Likewise, building something enduring takes long-term effort and faithfulness. Simple, intentional acts today can lead to monumental outcomes over time. The strength of your impact depends on the foundation of values you establish. Finally, as you build a legacy, keep God at the center of everything. He is the source of your talents and the ultimate purpose behind your efforts. For those ready to dedicate their lives and blessings to Him, a powerful prayer can mark the beginning of this journey, as we'll discuss next. A powerful prayer, dedicating your life and talents to God before taking any action. Prayer is the connection that aligns our efforts with God's purpose. When we dedicate our talents to Him, we offer not just our abilities, but also our dreams and intentions. Prayer is an act of humility and faith, acknowledging that without God, our efforts are in vain. As Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans." Begin by setting aside a quiet moment. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath and sincerely speak to God. Heavenly Father, thank you for entrusting me with such precious talents. Help me to recognize them, develop them, and use them for your glory. Forgive my fears and negligence, and fill my heart with courage and wisdom to multiply all that you have given me. A prayer like this shifts not only your mindset, but also the outcome of your actions. Beyond prayer, commit to living intentionally. Write down areas where you want to grow and seek God's guidance for each step. Incorporate habits of gratitude and daily reflection on His Word. When you make God the center of your plans, He will direct your path and bless your endeavors. It's a divine partnership that bears eternal fruit. This prayer is just the starting point, but the journey requires daily dedication. Just as the master in the parable rejoiced in seeing his faithful servants flourish, God delights in seeing His children use their gifts for His kingdom. And this journey of faithfulness and multiplication doesn't end here. It's only the beginning of the great things God has in store for you. Now that you've uncovered the transformative principles of the parable of the talents, write in the comments with faith, "I will multiply the talents entrusted to me." And the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? God has already placed in your hands everything you need to begin. But multiplication only happens when you act with faith and purpose. Are you ready to step out of your comfort zone and fully embrace the calling He has for your life? Remember, true impact comes when we use our talents to bless others and glorify God. What changes are you prepared to make today? It could be starting a new project, adopting a new habit, or even teaching someone what you've learned. The decision is yours, and the time is now. Don't miss the chance to keep learning and growing. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join us on this journey of discovery and spiritual transformation. God has so much more to reveal to you.